everyone. Welcome to Marriage Sanctified. We are in Tim and Janie. We're so glad that you joined us for today's episode on seasons in marriage.
Yeah, so this is going to be a two-part series, and we're going to talk about two of the sort of light and easy seasons in marriage that they tend to be today. And then next week, we'll go over two of the harder seasons that we tend to experience in marriage. And really what we want to do is be able to express to our listeners how to navigate these seasons and how to keep our marriages strong no matter what season that we're in.
That's good. I like that. That's awesome. So, babe, what do we mean by when we say seasons in marriage?
So, just like in nature, right? Our lives and our marriages have seasons.
Yes.
So we're going to have seasons where things are great and seasons where maybe things are more challenging. And we see that. We see the change of seasons in nature. And if you've been married for any amount of time or even been dating for that matter, I think you kind of know what we're talking about.
Right. Those
little shifts, those transitions that sometimes we enter into naturally and sometimes we kind of thrust ourselves into them.
Yeah.
So that's what we mean by the seasons.
Yep.
I mean, we're not going to just have one winter season or one summer season in the lifetime of our marriage.
Right. There's going to be all four of them.
For sure.
So it's going to happen. Yeah. So what does God say about seasons?
Well, I think if we turn to Ecclesiastes 3, and in fact, verse 1, it says, "For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven." And if you continue to read on in Ecclesiastes 3, it'll say there's a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to cry and a time to laugh. And I just think that's so well demonstrates, what it is like to have seasons in your marriage.
I agree. So from this verse, we can discern two things. The first thing would be we are to expect, that we'll have different seasons in our marriage.
Definitely need to be expectant of that.
Definitely. And the second thing would be all seasons are temporary.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, we're not stuck in a season. I mean, sometimes a season will last quite a while, and we are stuck because of maybe our own choices or our free will. But what we're trying to say is that no matter what season you're in, eventually that season's going to come to an end.
Right.
And a new season's going to begin.
Right.
So they're definitely temporary.
Yeah, well, one thing I want to just say on that, though, is that when, like you said these seasons can last a long time.
They can.
And we have to remember, we have to have patience during these seasons. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
If you can't have patience and you can't wait it out,
right,
there will be problems.
Yeah, and then they're going to last a lot longer than maybe you want them to.
Exactly.
Of course, sometimes depending on the season, we might want them to last longer if it's a good season.
That's true, yeah.
But, I think it's important to, in our marriages, to recognize the fact that we have broad seasons, So the season of being newlyweds, that lasts, couple years,
Exactly.
But basically that's a season.
It is.
And then we have like other seasons within that. But then, you have the time where if you have children, you're raising your children or you're busy pursuing a career, that is a season.
Exactly.
And then, you enter into seasons where it's retirement or the kids are leaving or, just grandchildren come about. I mean, there's all these different seasons, and these are like the broader seasons. But when it comes to marriage strengthening, what we really like to focus on are those mini seasons that happen within those broader seasons, like a career change or health challenges or a job loss or, even the loss of a family member. I mean, grief, that is definitely a season that is much different than any other season that we have within any other season.
That is so good,
I mean, those are sort of things that I think, like within marriage, we have to be very mindful of.
Yeah, and also too, we have to remember within those many seasons, where we can run into so many challenges in our marriage.
Yeah.
Thus, the need for strengthening tools. For example, so you may be relaxing in the summer season and then get hit by a massive hurricane.
Yeah, I think we can all kind of relate to this. You're on vacation and the whole family's together. Somebody breaks a leg.
Yes.
I mean, it happens.
It happens.
So we're in this season and we're expectant of certain things, and then all of a sudden something knocks us off.
Right.
Takes the winds out of our sails.
That's that hurricane.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the big thing is no matter what season we go into, we need to realize that the purpose of each season, no matter what it is for growth.
Yes.
And I mean, this is true for our personal lives. This is true in our marriages. And I think that it's important to know and acknowledge the fact that we are constantly being sanctified by God. I mean, both individually and as a marital unit. I mean, that's why we talk about marriage sanctified, and basically the sanctification process is, to be more like Jesus, to be set apart as holy. Our goal is to help couples have holier marriages that look more like Jesus.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
both the marital unit and for both of the participants in the marriage.
Right.
So I think that sometimes these change of seasons are this natural testing, you know, within our Christian walk. But then other times we just thrust ourselves into them, you know, based on our actions.
That's true.
I mean,
yeah.
it could be the consequence of sin.
Yeah.
And it could be your sin or my sin.
Exactly.
But what happens to you happens to me.
You know, that goes to, since we're one flesh in marriage, you know, the actions of one of us, you know, affects our spouse too.
For sure. Yeah.
So, you know, and, you know, when we transition into a new season, whether it's good or bad season, it's always stressful because change is often, you know, stressful.
For sure. I mean, I think for me, I like to be a creature of habit.
Right.
I get comfortable and I really don't want change. Although I know that it's going to grow me, it's going to grow us or grow you, but I still don't want it. Well, being honest.
You know what? As you say that, I'm thinking about even when it's a bad season.
Yeah.
That bad season we're going to learn from in our marriage, in our lives as we grow older and older. You know what I mean? So it's good to learn some of the bad seasons to help us get through the next season.
I agree. I mean, you have to go through it. It just makes you stronger. Even though it doesn't always feel so good, it definitely makes you stronger.
That's true. So there are 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So you know, and I'm going to talk about. I'll name all 4 of them, and then we'll just talk about the 2 that we're dealing with today.
Yeah.
So you know, the first one is spring,
Yep.
which is a season of newness.
Yeah.
If you think about it. All right, and then we have summer, which is a season of relaxation and when things heat up.
Oh yeah.
And that's what we're going to be talking about. And of course, the next week's session we'll be talking about fall and winter. Yeah. You know, fall is a season of unveiling or uncovering, and winter is a season where things cool off and often dry up.
Yep, that's so true. Yeah, next week should be good. So tune in for that one.
Exactly. So.
But with spring, you know, when I think of spring, I think that this is typically the time of newness or a time of renewal.
Yes.
So for newlyweds, you know, this is the newness. This is when things are blooming and getting planted. You just got married. Right. You know, it's exciting. Emotions are high. And typically the emotions are all positive. You know, everything's great.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, you can get a lot done. There could be a lot of productivity in this season and definitely a lot of growth in the season. You know, I liken it to, you know, the plants outside in the spring. But, you know, it can be very busy too.
Right.
So I think in marriage, when you're experiencing a spring season, especially for newlyweds, the number one thing is to make sure you grab onto some good, trusted marriage mentors.
Amen.
You know?
I agree with you on that.
And have fellowship with other Christian couples. You know, hang around people who've been married for a little while, you know, that you can talk to. And I just think that that's so important because research shows, especially for newlyweds, that at year 3.5, that's when couples kind of decide, hey, we're going to dig in and fight for this marriage for this lifetime, or we're going to give up and walk away.
It's the same. 3.5 years, that's what they say.
Not very long time.
Not very long at all.
No,
so
you barely know each other as far as I'm concerned at that point.
That's true.
I mean, you're still getting to know each other. It's not that you barely know each other, but there's so much more to learn.
There is, you know, and this is a time of renewal in your marriage too.
Yeah, if you're not a newlywed, a spring season could be renewing in your marriage.
Surround yourself with, like you said, with mentors in your marriage. You know what I mean? Have fellowship with other married couples.
Yes.
This is a big thing. You know, every time you enter into a new season, you know, you will appreciate the support from your friends.
You really
Believe
will.
it or not, you will.
You will. And then you talk a lot about, from a man's perspective, accountability.
Yes. You know, men are men. We're men out there, men. So, you know, we're going to, you know, do things in our lives that might be different than the female, your spouse. But I know as men, though, accountability is one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
You have to have accountability. I have several accountability friends, you know, that are Christian friends, and I know that they're there for me. But also, I know them well. They know when something's wrong with me. Yeah. Just like you know what's wrong with me by studying me. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know what's happening today. You know, oh, his attitude changed, or he's not the same Tim that I knew last week. What's going on? So I would expect the men that are in my life, the friends, the Christian friends, that they're going to come to me and go, hey, Tim, you're acting a little weird today. What, everything okay at home? You know, are you okay?
What can I pray for?
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's good to have that accountability partner.
I agree. And, you know, another thing that we do is we seek wisdom in other couples. So you and I purposely are close with couples who have been married twice as long as we have been. Yes. You know, and they have good marriages, and they love each other, and we can see, okay, I can think of one couple right now that we spend a few times with a month.
Right.
They just celebrated 50 years of being married, and I love to be around them, and I love to hear their wisdom, and then we take that plus what we've gone through. And then when we teach classes in person, we give that on to people who've been married, for a less amount of time than us, or maybe younger people.
Right. I tell you what, I love what you said though, is that taking what we can learn from somebody who's been married 50 years, a Christian couple, and we sit there and we just absorb what they're putting out. And I want to take that and I want to learn how because I want to make it that far.
Yeah, I want 50 years.
Exactly. with you. Exactly. So, but I love how you said that. We take what we learned here. And of course, us being coaches, marriage coaches, we're able to put it on to some younger couples. So I can think of another young couple that's engaged right now in our group, and
in our marriage group,
marriage group, and they are on fire to learn not what to do in a marriage. They're learning they want to soak it up so much that they want to do it right from the beginning. I mean,
they've invited God into their engagement.
They did.
I mean, they're a step ahead as far as I'm concerned. Right. And you know what? We get inspiration from them.
We do.
Yeah.
Just because they're not married yet, I'm learning stuff from them going, wow, man, I need to put that into my marriage.
Well, we can tell other people, not them,
right,
but some of the things that we see them doing, how they're honoring God in their premarital, status. And we can give that to other people that we know that are engaged, or people who become engaged that, end up being in our corner for coaching.
I totally agree. agree. So you got to remember, all seasons are temporary.
Yeah.
Even the ones that are of good seasons. Yeah. If you're having a good season, it's temporary.
Yeah. I think you're right. So I think for me, spring is like about abundance.
Right.
So we have an abundance of flowers. You and I, when spring comes, we're outside putting flowers all over the yard, planting our planter boxes, our gardens. There's abundance of everything. And in the spring season in a marriage, it could be an abundance of love, an abundance of growth, an abundance of emotions, and a lot of them being real good, especially if you're on a new, trajectory, let's just say.
True.
But I think I want to kind of caution people listening that couples that are married that, we don't want to think that all seasons of marriage are going to be full of abundance.
Yes.
Because otherwise, we're going to have this unreal expectation that when things get tough, it's not supposed to be tough.
Right.
And we know things are supposed to be tough at times because that's how we grow, like we just talked about.
Exactly.
So I think it's a good word of caution to say, don't let the seasons of abundance cause you to have unreal expectations that show up in harder seasons as unmet expectations.
Yeah.
Because unmet expectations right there, nothing can throw you into a winter season quicker than thinking you have unmet expectations, and especially if your spouse doesn't even know what they are.
That is so true.
So,
wow, that's
anyway,
awesome.
I just felt like a word of caution should go out for that.
Yeah, definitely. So
I think in spring too, the key is commitment.
I agree.
And I mean, whether you're establishing something new or replanting new seeds, let's say, you've just gone through a long season and you're replanting, you got to stay committed. Let those roots grow and let them dig in deep,
Right.
And I think there's a Bible verse that I like to think of when I think about this. It's Proverbs 16:3, and it says, "Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established."
Wow.
And I just want to hang on to that promise, honestly.
Commit yourself to the Lord.
Yep, and He's going to establish the plans.
He is.
So we just got to hang on and dig those roots.
You know how you just said that, though. You could take a long season in your marriage that's status quo.
Yeah.
And God, like you said, you commit to the Lord, He can change that season just like that. I mean, it's just, if you believe, you got to have the faith, you got to have the patience, you got to have the time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You got to put all this effort into your marriage.
Yep. Walk by faith, not by sight.
There you go. Amen. So, all right, so let's go over to the next season.
Okay, so that would be summer. And this is like a time I like to think of as like freedom and flexibility.
Amen. Yeah, you're right. That's great.
The routines kind of change for the summer.
Right. Summer's also a typical season of a mixture of downtime and excitement.
That's really true.
So,
So for me, in marriage, when I think of summer seasons in marriage, these are the seasons where things are like usually hot, hot and steamy.
Yep. All right.
It could be from physical intimacy or it could be hot tempers.
Hot-headed tempers,
it could go, you could have a little bit of a down, a little bit of excitement.
Right.
But, so I think in marriage, in these summer seasons, I like to say you either get burned or you get strengthened.
Right.
You know, you're going to experience those high and low levels of intimacy and everything along the whole continuum. That would be how I would best describe like a summer season, you know, in marriage.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
like a plant needs the mixture of sun and rain. You know, our marriages need that proper balance of excitement and downtime. You know,
I love
I kind of think of summer in that way.
I love how you put that. That's awesome.
Thanks.
That's great.
I think, I don't know. For us, we always handled summertime, you know, that when it comes to like the crazy schedules, you know, if you do want to associate like the actual summertime in nature with a summertime in marriage, you know, this would be like when the kids are out of school, if you have them, things are kind of chaotic. Well, for us, you know, we really tried hard not to make it so challenging and so costly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
our summertime was raising our 3 boys.
Yeah.
You know, they were home with us,
Yeah.
no school,
Right.
you know, but we both were working full-time jobs.
Right.
You know, the kids were off. So summers could have been very challenging and
For
costly.
Sure. For sure.
So, but instead of complaining, you know, we worked together.
We sure did.
You
yeah.
know, to formulate a plan and help summer a lot less challenging, make the summer a lot less challenging, as you know.
Yeah, I think if I recall, you know, a lot of the summers I would take the kids to work with me on some days.
Right.
You know, there were some days where I just said it's better to take them to work. Don't have to worry about paying somebody to watch them. I can not complain about this. Take them to work, teach them a skill. You know, buy them a milkshake at lunch, and, you know, and then kind of get that burden off of you. You don't have to work overtime. I don't have to work extra to pay for daycare. And I understand not everybody has the ability to do this, but I guess what I'm trying to say is if you do have some sort of resources, you know, maybe you can think outside the box. I mean, for you.
Right. Well, for me, you know, my career, I was able, of course, to build up my time. And that, you know, the first part of my
paid time off.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first part of the career when I was on my own, I did that.
Yeah.
You know, so I built a lot of time up.
You did.
But when we got married and we had a family, I started seeing more things going, you know what? Building that time up is less important than spending more time with my family.
Yeah.
So I was able to take off the time that I needed to work through our issues of time.
Yeah, I think that was a really good decision that you made because you actually invested time with our boys to build your fatherly bond with them. You would, instead of, you know, saving up a vacation day, you know, like the Bible says, don't store all your, instead of storing all those treasures for the end, you said, no, I'm going to take them now. Right. I'm going to take, you know, paid time off and be with the boys, you know, and do stuff with them over the summer and give them a memory.
Well, you just said it though, is spending more time with my family was more important.
Yeah.
So, you know, as the Bible verse says that the root of all evil is money.
The love
of all money is evil.
the love of money is the root of all evil. I know what you mean.
Okay. I'm getting it out there. I got so much information here. But, you know, I took that and went, you know what? The money wasn't important at the time. It was my children and my spouse. Right. That was spending more time with them was better than trying to receive the money.
You were loving your family over loving money.
Exactly.
I agree. That's a great way to demonstrate that. I mean, you could have saved all your time, got paid, you know, for it at the end of your career, and then pay tax on it. Yeah. But, you know, we'll talk about that some other time.
I know.
So take the time if you have it. Spend it with your family.
Yes.
That's our best advice when it comes to that. And here's another thing, too. Your mom, you know, she's the grandma, and she wanted to be with our kids. You know, she always wanted time with them. And in the summer, she would take them for 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And again, if you have family members, friends, you know, trusted people in your life that you're comfortable with, you know, your children being around, utilize that because, like, for instance, with your mom, our kids and your mom have an awesome bond. I mean, they have a great relationship, and they have all these memories with her, you know, and who would we have been to, you know, not give that to her.
Right.
So
no, I
I'm
totally
just
agree
thankful
with
for
you.
that. Shout out to your mom if you're listening.
Yep, definitely. So I'm looking too, is that, you know, summer can also be a time of a major distraction. So it's important to take time to focus on each other.
Yes.
So during that time when my mom had the kids, we were focused on you and me, our marriage.
Right.
And that's when, so we're trying to say that when you do have this time and the kids are, if you have kids and they are with somebody, take the time to work on your marriage.
Yeah.
The stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know
Sit down, have those conversations.
You might be in that one season right now where the kids are a distraction, but now you got somebody watching them. Take the time and concentrate on your marriage.
Yes. I mean, I know, some couples we've known in the past, if they get a break from the kids, he's off hunting and she's off, on a girlfriend's weekend. And we're not saying that that's not good to do that. Right. It's okay to do that. Right. It's okay to have your individual likes. It's okay for me to have mine and to do separate ways. But if you're feeling like a little disconnected or you just need that time or you're busy, take that time together if somebody's going to help you out. That helped us immensely.
Because, go to God. Especially during that time, go to God and say, okay, hey, we have some time alone here.
Yeah.
What can I do to make this more like you, what you want, you know what I mean, in our relationship?
Yeah, ask him to remove the distractions.
Right. There you go.
Ask him to bring to your forefront of your mind ways to remove any kind of distractions.
Yeah.
So that way, really, the only person you really want to invest in those precious times are with your spouse.
That's true. Wow.
That's what I think.
There you go. What a great conversation this has been. So,
well, there's one more Bible verse I want to read because I think for the summertime, what's important for that is to be able to have self-control.
I agree.
And we know self-control is one of the fruits of the Spirit. We've talked about this before. But I think in summer when things can kind of, be very exciting or kind of loose schedules, that, it's to remember that self-control. And so 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. So as far as I'm concerned, he can help us bring in that self-control if that's what we feel like maybe our summer seasons are kind of spiraling out of control.
Wow, that is great. That is awesome. Wow. This has been really great conversation.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with you preparing for this and kind of reminiscing on the different seasons we've experienced in our marriage. So basically, we just want to let you guys know that we're here if you have any questions, and next week, please join us because next week it's going to be a little bit more involved, a little bit of the tougher seasons. We're going to get into seasons of, where you're longing or seasons of waiting or seasons of testing and discontentment and stuff like that.
And how to get through them.
And how to get through them. And what we've done to help us get through them, what we know from our experience seems to work.
Yeah. And also, too, if you have a certain topic that has been bothering you, maybe you can't find the answer to, please email us so we can we'll actually do a series on it. You know what I mean? We'll talk about it so we can help you. I mean, that's the goal here is to help you guys out there.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that no matter how long you've been married, you could be married 6 decades, 60 years.
Right.
You could still run into an issue that you can't seem to quite navigate. Yes. So we're here to help. If we've been through it, we'll help you through it. And if we haven't been, we'll point you to the right resources.
Amen.
So thank you for joining us.
Hey, we hope you guys have a blessed week and God bless.
God bless.